Hi, welcome back to Sermons by Dale Dudgeon. I hope you're having a good day. For today's devotional thought, I'd like to continue on our study with Paul's Doxology that we read in the third chapter of the book of Ephesians, verses 14 through 21. We read all 7 verses in earlier videos. If you like, you can go back and look at the others. We're going to look at one verse at a time. Today we're going to look at the 18th verse, but really in order to understand the 18th verse, we have to look at the 17th verse as well. So let's read those 2 verses together from Ephesians chapter 3, verses 17 and 18. That Christ may dwell in your hearts by faith, that ye, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all saints what is the breadth, length, depth, and height. As we look at that verse, we see that Paul, his prayer for the Ephesians is that they comprehend. What does that mean? Well, in the Greek it means to lay hold of, to grasp with their minds. To grasp what? What is the breadth, length, depth, and height? Now he gives 4 dimensions. And the last time I checked, they tell us we live in a 3-dimensional world. Why does Paul mention 4? And dimensions of what, we might ask? The breadth, length, depth, and height of what? Well, that verse is sandwiched between 2 other verses. And those 2 other verses, the 17th verse ends with love, and the 19th verse begins with love. Verse 17 ends by talking about being rooted and grounded in love. Verse 19 begins, and to know the love of Christ. So we think about Christ's love. Paul wants the Ephesians to understand the breadth, length, depth, and height of Christ's love. Now, why 4 dimensions? Well, Robertson puts it this way. Paul gives a rectangular 4-dimensional measure of love, the platos, length, the mikos, height, hupos, and depth, bathos. All common enough words. But as we look at those words, some of those words, we use words similar to that in the English language. Platos, it's the idea of being up high, like a plateau. Bathos, have you ever heard of a bathysphere? It's a vehicle that goes deep into the ocean. Paul here seems to be wanting to get across the idea that Christ's love is great. It's multi-dimensional. A lot of people make a big deal out of this verse and say that what the Bible is telling us is that we really do live in a 4-dimensional world. Well, maybe we do. Maybe someday we'll find that out. But I think Paul here is wanting to get across to us the idea of the fullness of Christ's love. As a matter of fact, down in verse 19, the next verse, we read these words, and to know the love of Christ, which passeth knowledge, that ye might be filled with the fullness of God. So Christ's love is a love that's great. It is a love that's full. It is a fulfilling love. In the Greek word, that word is pleroma. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. But Paul wants the Ephesians to really understand the love of Christ and all of its breadth, length, depth, and height. And he wants them to grasp it. He wants them to comprehend it. That is his prayer for the Ephesians. And that's my prayer for you today. And I hope you think about this, and I hope that God blesses you and yours until we can talk together again.